Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the patrol vessel Vigilant, watching the stars streak past through the main viewport. The journey to New Haven Colony had been routine so far. Just another supply run to one of humanity's farming worlds. The ship carried medical supplies, equipment parts, and letters from families back on Earth. "Captain, we're approaching the New Haven system," announced Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried the usual excitement that came with reaching a destination after weeks in hyperspace. "Good work, Amy. Take us out of hyperspace and begin standard approach procedures," Morrison replied, settling into his command chair. He had made this run dozens of times over the past 5 years. New Haven was one of his favorite stops, a peaceful world where families grew food for the entire sector. The Vigilant dropped out of hyperspace with a gentle shudder. Morrison expected to see the usual sight: ships moving between the orbital stations, the green and blue marble of New Haven spinning slowly below, and the cheerful chatter of traffic control guiding vessels to their landing zones. Instead, he saw nothing. Chief Engineer Pete Williams looked up from his console, confusion written across his face. "Captain, I'm not picking up any signals from the orbital stations." "The automated beacons are all offline," Morrison frowned. "Technical problems." "Maybe." Amy, try raising New Haven control. Rodriguez worked at her station, sending standard approach signals on all frequencies. "New Haven Control, this is the patrol vessel Vigilant requesting landing clearance. Please respond." She waited for a reply that never came. "Nothing, sir." Complete radio silence. Commander Lisa Thompson, Morrison's first officer, moved to the sensor station. "Captain, you need to see this. The orbital stations are still there, but they're not responding to our signals. And the planet ... She paused, her face growing pale. "Something's wrong with the planet." Morrison moved to stand beside her. The main screen showed New Haven growing larger as they approached, but it looked different. The green continents that should have been covered with farms and cities were dark. Strange patterns of black and gray covered the surface like massive scars. "Take us into closer orbit," Morrison ordered. "I want a full sensor sweep." Williams worked frantically at his console. "Captain, the energy readings are off the charts. The planet's surface is showing massive heat signatures, but they're fading fast. Whatever happened here, it was recent." As the Vigilant moved closer, the full horror became clear. The cities were gone, the farms were gone. Where millions of people had lived and worked just days ago, there was only glass and ash. The entire surface of New Haven had been burned from orbit. "Dear God," Thompson whispered. "The whole planet, they're all gone." Morrison felt his stomach drop. New Haven had been home to 2.3 million colonists. Families, children, teachers, farmers, all of them wiped out in what looked like a deliberate attack. "Amy, emergency transmission." To Earth Command. "Priority Alpha, tell them New Haven Colony has been destroyed." Rodriguez's hands shook as she worked. "Sir, what should I tell them happened?" "Tell them we don't know yet. But tell them it looks like someone turned an entire world into glass." Williams had been running detailed scans of the planet's surface. "Captain, these energy patterns, they're not from any human weapon. The heat signatures suggest antimatter bombardment, but the targeting was too precise, too complete. This wasn't a battle, this was extermination." Morrison walked to the main viewport and stared down at the dead world. He had known many of the colonists personally. The Johnson family who ran the seed bank. The Martinez children who always waved at his ship when it landed. The elderly couple who made the best apple pie in the sector. All of them were gone now, reduced to atoms by weapons beyond human understanding. "Captain," Thompson called from the sensor station, "I'm detecting debris in high orbit. It doesn't match any human technology." "On screen," Morrison ordered. The main display showed twisted pieces of metal and crystal floating in the void. The materials were unlike anything. In human databases, smooth, organic-looking surfaces that seemed to shift color in the starlight. Strange symbols were carved into the larger pieces. "Those aren't human," Williams confirmed. "The molecular structure is completely alien, and Captain, look at this." He highlighted a section of debris on the screen. These energy burns match the pattern we're seeing on the planet's surface. Whatever did this, pieces of it are still up here. Morrison studied the alien wreckage. Collect samples. I want everything analyzed. And get me a full record of what happened here. He turned to Rodriguez. Amy, send another message to Earth Command. Tell them we have evidence of alien contact. And tell them... He paused, looking back at the dead world below. Tell them it wasn't peaceful. The crew worked in grim silence for the next several hours. They mapped the destruction, collected the alien debris, and documented everything they could. The evidence painted a clear picture. An unknown alien species had arrived at New Haven and systematically destroyed every sign of human life. As the Vigilant prepared to leave the system, Morrison stood in his quarters staring at a photo of New Haven taken during his last visit. Children playing in the streets, farmers working in the fields, people living normal, peaceful lives. Now they were all gone, killed by aliens who had shown no mercy. A soft chime announced an incoming message. Morrison activated his communication system and saw the face of Admiral Charles Bennett appear on the screen. The Admiral's expression was grave. Captain Morrison, I've received your reports. How certain are you about what happened? As certain as I can be, Admiral. The entire colony is gone. Every city, every farm, every trace of human life has been incinerated. The alien debris confirms it was a deliberate attack. Bennett nodded slowly. Captain, I'm ordering you to return to Earth immediately. Bring everything you've collected, and Captain ... Prepare a full briefing. The President and the Defense Council will want to hear this directly from you. Morrison straightened. Yes, sir. Admiral, what are we going to do about this? Bennett's face hardened. We're going to find out who did this, Captain. And then we're going to make sure they understand. What happens when someone attacks humanity? The transmission ended, leaving Morrison alone with his thoughts. As the Vigilant jumped back into hyperspace, Morrison took one last look at the New Haven system. The dead world slowly faded from view, but the memory of what he had seen would stay with him forever. Someone had killed 2.3 million innocent people. Someone had declared war on humanity. They would learn that was a mistake. Admiral Charles Bennett stood at the head of the emergency meeting table in the secure briefing room deep within Terra Station. The faces around the table belonged to the most powerful people in human space. President Kate Sullivan sat at his right, her expression grave as she reviewed the reports from New Haven. The other members of the Human Defense Council studied the alien debris samples and listened to Captain Morrison's testimony with growing anger. The evidence is clear, Bennett said, his voice cutting through the tense silence. We are dealing with an unknown alien species that has committed genocide against our colony. 2.3 million innocent people were murdered without warning or provocation. President Sullivan leaned forward. Admiral, what are we looking at in terms of threat assessment? Could this have been an isolated incident? Colonel Danny Wright, head of military intelligence, activated a holographic display showing the alien debris. Madam President, our analysis suggests this was not random. The technology we recovered is highly advanced, possibly centuries ahead of our own. The precision of the attack indicates a coordinated military operation, not the work of pirates or raiders. General Rick Stone, the Defense Council's senior military advisor, stood up. The alien weapons used against New Haven were designed for planetary bombardment. This wasn't a robbery or a territorial dispute. This was extermination. Someone out there has decided that humanity is a problem to be solved. President Sullivan closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with steel in her gaze. Then we solve them first. Admiral Bennett, I'm authorizing Operation Darkfall. Give me options. Bennett had been preparing for this moment since Morrison's first report arrived. Madam President, I recommend immediate military mobilization on a scale never before attempted. We need to assume that New Haven was just the beginning. If these aliens can destroy one of our worlds, they can destroy all of them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. General Stone was the first to speak. Admiral, what kind of numbers are we talking about? Every shipyard, every orbital dock, every military installation across all 47 human worlds working at maximum capacity. We're going to build the largest fleet in human history. Bennett paused, letting the weight of his words settle. We're going to show these aliens what happens when they mistake human kindness for weakness. President Sullivan nodded. Do it. Whatever resources you need, you have them. Congress will approve emergency funding, and I'll address the nation. Tonight. As the meeting broke up, Bennett walked to the communications center where Captain Morrison waited. The young officer had been through hell in the past week, but his determination remained strong. Captain, I have a new assignment for you. You're being promoted to Commodore. I want you to lead our reconnaissance operations. We need to know everything about these aliens before we strike back. Morrison saluted. Thank you, Admiral. When do I leave? Tomorrow. Take the best scouts we have and find out where these creatures came from. Map their territory, identify their weaknesses, and report back. But Morrison ... then its voice dropped. Don't engage unless you have no choice? We're not ready for a full fight yet? Across human space, the mobilization began within hours. At the Mars shipyards, Director Sue Miller received the emergency production orders and immediately called all workers back to their stations. The massive orbital facilities that usually built civilian transports and cargo vessels were retooled for military production. People, we're going to war, Miller announced over the facility's communication system. Those aliens killed our people at New Haven. Now we're going to make them pay for it. I want 3 shifts running around the clock. Anyone who wants overtime. Pay, you've got it. Anyone who wants to help build the ships that will avenge our dead, report to your stations. The response was immediate. Workers who had been planning vacations canceled their trips. Retirees came back to help. Even children too young to work showed up to help in whatever way they could. The attack on New Haven had united humanity in a way that nothing else could. On Europa, engineer Tom Baker worked with his team to design new weapon systems. The alien technology recovered from New Haven had given them insights into advanced energy manipulation, but Baker knew that copying alien tech wouldn't be enough. We need to build something they won't expect, Baker told his team. These aliens think they're dealing with primitives. Let's show them how wrong they are. His team worked day and night, fueled by coffee and determination. They developed new missile systems that could pierce energy shields, plasma cannons that could melt through alien armor, and targeting computers that could track multiple enemies simultaneously. Meanwhile, Commodore Morrison led his first reconnaissance mission into the unknown regions where the aliens might be hiding. His small fleet of scout ships moved carefully through uncharted space, scanning for any sign of alien activity. Commodore, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. I'm picking up unusual energy signatures 3 systems. Over. It's faint, but it doesn't match any known natural phenomenon. Morrison studied the readings. Take us there, but keep us at maximum sensor range. I want to know what we're dealing with before they know we're here. What they found chilled Morrison to the bone. The system contained the remains of another planet that had been glassed just like New Haven, but this world hadn't been human. The debris indicated a different species entirely, one that had been wiped out with the same ruthless efficiency. They've done this before, Morrison realized. New Haven wasn't their first target. They're systematically destroying entire civilizations. Dr. Helen Carter, the expedition's xenobiologist, studied the alien remains they collected. Commodore. Based on the evidence, I believe we're dealing with a species that views genocide as standard operating procedure. They don't conquer worlds, they cleanse them. Morrison transmitted his findings back to Earth, knowing that Admiral Bennett would want to see them immediately. The aliens weren't just enemies, they were a threat to all life in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Bennett received Morrison's report while standing in his office, looking out at the bustling shipyards visible through his window. Construction crews worked around the clock, building humanity's response to the alien threat. Admiral, came a voice from behind him. General Stone entered the office carrying a datapad. The production reports are in? At current rates, we'll have our first battle groups ready within 6 months. Bennett nodded. And Morrison's reconnaissance data? Disturbing. It appears these aliens have been committing genocide for years, possibly decades. They've killed billions of sentient beings across multiple star systems. Bennett turned from the window, his face hard with determination. Then we're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for every species these monsters have murdered. He activated his communication system. Get me President Sullivan. It's time to tell the people what we're really up against. As night fell over Terra Station, work continued in the shipyards. Sparks flew from welding torches as the first hulls of humanity's revenge fleet took shape. The aliens had awakened something. They didn't understand, a species that would not quietly accept extinction. 6 months after the destruction of New Haven, the human war machine had transformed beyond recognition. Commander Steve Miller stood on the observation deck of the Titan shipyards, watching as the first Retribution-class battleship slowly took shape in the massive construction bay below. The ship was enormous, stretching over 2 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that had never existed before the aliens made their fatal mistake. "She's beautiful," said Captain Eric Johnson, joining Miller at the viewing window. Johnson had been selected to command the new vessel, and he had spent weeks studying every detail of its construction. "How many more are being built?" Miller consulted his datapad. 57 Retribution-class ships are under construction across 12 shipyards. But that's just the beginning. We're also building 300 heavy cruisers, 800 destroyers, and over 2,000 frigates. All of them designed specifically for the war we're about to fight. The scale of construction was staggering. Every human world had converted its industrial capacity to military production. Asteroid mining operations worked around the clock to provide the raw materials. Civilian factories that once made household goods now produced weapons components. The entire human economy had been reorganized around a single goal: building the force needed to make the aliens pay for their crimes. Lieutenant Colonel Mary Davis stood in the weapons testing facility on Luna, watching as her team prepared to test their latest creation. The quantum torpedo had been designed using principles derived from the alien technology recovered at New Haven, but enhanced with human engineering and powered by human determination. "Initiate test sequence," Davis ordered. The torpedo launched from its test platform and struck the target asteroid with a brilliant flash of light. When the glow faded, the asteroid was gone, converted to elementary particles in an instant. "Energy output exceeded projections by 12%, reported her assistant. "The quantum disruption field is more effective than we hoped." Davis smiled grimly. "Good, the aliens taught us about antimatter bombardment. Now we're going to teach them about quantum destruction." She turned to her team. "Begin production immediately. I want 10,000 of these ready for deployment within 3 months." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out at research facilities and weapons plants. Humanity's scientists had taken the alien technology and improved upon it, creating weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics. Antimatter cannons that could punch through any known armor. Plasma arrays that could melt entire ships in seconds. Shield generators that could deflect energy weapons back at their sources. Captain Johnson stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, the first completed Retribution-class battleship, as its systems came online for the first time. The ship's artificial intelligence, developed by programmer Alex Thompson, coordinated the vessel's thousands of weapons systems with inhuman precision. "All systems operational, Captain," reported the AI in a calm, mechanical voice. "Weapons systems at full readiness. Quantum torpedoes loaded and armed. Antimatter reserves at maximum capacity." Johnson nodded with satisfaction. "Thank you, Artemis." The AI had been named after the Greek goddess of the hunt, appropriate for a system designed to track down and destroy humanity's enemies. "Run full diagnostic on all combat systems. I want to know this ship is ready for war." The bridge crew worked efficiently at their stations, most of them veterans who had served on ships like the Vigilant. They had seen the recordings from New Haven. They knew what they were preparing to face. Every one of them was motivated by the same burning desire for justice. Admiral Nancy Clark stood in the command center at Ceres Station, coordinating the formation of the Second Fleet. Her screens showed the positions of thousands of ships scattered across the asteroid belt, all converging on their assembly point. The logistics of moving so many vessels was staggering, but humanity was managing it with typical efficiency. "Admiral," called her aide, "we're receiving reports from all sectors. The Third Fleet is assembling at Alpha Centauri. The Fourth Fleet is gathering at Proxima. The Fifth Fleet is mustering at Volf 359. Clark studied the tactical display. "And the aliens?" "Commodore Morrison's reconnaissance teams report increased activity in the border regions. The aliens seem to be aware that something is happening, but they don't appear to understand the scale of our response." The aliens had made a crucial error in their assessment of humanity. They had observed human colonies and seen peaceful farmers and traders. They had concluded that humans were weak, defenseless creatures who would surrender at the first sign of superior force. They had no understanding of what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. Colonel Frank Roberts led a training exercise in the zero-gravity combat facility on Mars. His space marines moved through the simulated alien ship with deadly precision, clearing room after room with weapons designed to function in any environment. These soldiers would be the ones to board alien vessels and space stations, bringing the war directly to the enemy. "Remember," Roberts told his troops, "the aliens showed no mercy to the civilians at New Haven. They don't deserve any mercy from U.S., but we're not savages like they are. We follow the rules of war even when they don't." The Marines nodded grimly. They had all seen the footage from New Haven, the glass plains where children had once played. They knew what they were fighting for, and they were ready to die for it if necessary. Meanwhile, the miners of Ceres worked overtime to extract the rare metals needed for ship construction. The researchers of Alpha Centauri pushed the boundaries of propulsion technology, developing engines that could move the massive fleet across interstellar distances. The agricultural worlds increased food production to feed the millions of people now working in the war effort. Dr. Helen Carter worked in her laboratory, studying the alien remains and trying to understand their psychology. "They're not evil in the way we understand it," she explained to Admiral Bennett during one of their regular briefings. "They genuinely believe that all other life forms are inferior and should be eliminated. To them, genocide isn't a crime, it's a duty." Bennett frowned. "Can they be reasoned with?" "No, Admiral. Their entire civilization is built on the concept of racial superiority. They view negotiation as weakness and mercy as stupidity. The only thing they respect is superior force." Bennett nodded slowly. "Then superior force is what they'll get." As the months passed, intercepted alien communications began to show signs of concern. The aliens had expected humanity to surrender or flee after the demonstration at New Haven. Instead, they were detecting massive industrial activity throughout human space. Their long-range sensors were picking up energy signatures that suggested major military construction. For the first time in centuries, the aliens were beginning to feel something they had never experienced before: fear. They had awakened an enemy that refused to be intimidated, refused to surrender, and refused to die quietly. They were about to learn that humans, when pushed to their limits, could become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The war machine continued to grow, fed by humanity's determination to make the aliens pay for their crimes. Soon, the time for preparation would be over. Soon it would be time for justice. 2 years after the destruction of New Haven, Admiral Charles Bennett stood on the bridge of the command ship Retribution, looking out at the most incredible sight in human history. Nearly 1 million human warships stretched across multiple star systems, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. The fleet was so vast that it literally blocked out the starlight, creating patches of darkness in space itself. "Final fleet count, Admiral," reported Captain Julie White from her position at the tactical station. 897. 1,432 vessels of all classes. Every ship is fully armed, fully crewed, and ready for combat. Then it nodded slowly. The numbers were staggering, but each ship represented months of work, sacrifice, and determination. Every human world had contributed to this moment. Every man, woman, and child in human space had played a part in building this force. Communication. From all fleet commanders, announced Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, all battle groups report ready for Operation Darkfall. The operation had been planned down to the smallest detail. Captain White's advanced scouts had spent months mapping every alien world, every military installation, every possible target. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Collective, and they had built their empire on the bones of dozens of extinct species. Captain White, give me the tactical situation. Bennett ordered. White activated the holographic display showing the Zephyrian territory. We've identified 47 major worlds in the Collective, including their homeworld of Zephyr Prime. Their military is concentrated around 12 key systems, with their primary shipyards at Kithara and their command structure centered on Zephyr Prime itself. The display showed the alien empire in detail. The Zephyrians had been methodical in their genocides, wiping out entire species before moving on to the next target. Archaeological evidence suggested they had been doing this for over 3 centuries, killing billions of sentient beings across hundreds of worlds. They've made one crucial mistake, White continued. They've never faced an enemy that could fight back effectively. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming primitive species with superior technology. They have no experience with peer-level combat. Bennett studied the tactical data and their current status. Panicked, White replied with grim satisfaction. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive military mobilization throughout their space. They're pulling ships from all over their empire, but they can only muster about 50,000 vessels. Total, they're outnumbered 18-1. Commander Bill Taylor, the fleet's logistics coordinator, joined the briefing. Admiral, supply lines are established and ready. We have enough ammunition, fuel, and supplies to sustain this fleet for 6 months of continuous combat. The support vessels are positioned to maintain our advance. Bennett turned to Colonel Sandra Lewis, who commanded the Marine divisions. Colonel, status of ground forces? 2 million Marines ready for deployment, Admiral. We've studied the alien ship designs and station layouts. My people are prepared to take any installation you need captured. The scale of the operation was unprecedented. Humanity had never attempted anything like this before, but then again, humanity had never been pushed to this point before. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking humans were weak because they were peaceful. They were about to learn the difference. Signal all fleet commanders, Bennett ordered. Operation Darkfall begins in 12 hours. All ships are to jump to their assigned positions simultaneously. We hit them everywhere at once. The next 12 hours passed in final preparations. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Crews said prayers or wrote letters home. Engineers ran last-minute diagnostics on critical systems. Everyone knew that this was the moment humanity had been building toward for 2 years. Captain Kevin Brown stood on the bridge of the battleship Vengeance, leading Battle Group 7 toward the outer system of Nephros. His group consisted of 50,000 ships, more than the entire Zephyrian fleet. They would be the first to engage the enemy, testing their defenses and proving that humanity's new weapons worked as designed. All ships report ready for combat, announced his tactical officer. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready, antimatter cannons charged, plasma arrays at maximum power, Brown nodded. Signal the fleet. Remember what they did to New Haven. Remember the 2.3 million people who died for no reason except alien hatred. Today we make them pay. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at precisely 0800 hours, ship time. Across dozens of star systems, alien sensors suddenly detected the largest military force in galactic history materializing in their space. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. At Nephros, the aliens had positioned a defensive fleet of 2,000 ships around their military installations. It was considered a strong force by their standards, enough to destroy any normal enemy, but they weren't facing a normal enemy. "Alien fleet detected," reported Brown's sensor operator. 2,000 vessels, mostly heavy cruisers and destroyers. "They're moving to intercept us," Brown smiled coldly. "They're welcome to try. All ships, engage at will. Show them what humans do to murderers." The battle was over in minutes. Human. Quantum torpedoes tore through alien shields as if they weren't there. Antimatter cannons reduced enemy vessels to their component atoms. Plasma arrays melted alien hulls like butter. The 2,000 Zephyrian ships were destroyed without inflicting a single casualty on the human fleet. "Alien fleet eliminated," reported the tactical officer. "All installations in the system are defenseless." Similar scenes played out across Zephyrian space. At every target, human forces overwhelmed alien defenses with shocking ease. The aliens had built their military to intimidate primitives, not to fight a peer-level enemy. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human shields. Their tactics were useless against human coordination. Admiral Patricia Green commanded the Third Fleet as it systematically destroyed every collective military installation in the Corvaz sector. Her 75,000 ships moved like a well-oiled machine, following plans that had been rehearsed hundreds of times. "All installations in this sector are eliminated," reported her aide. "We're receiving surrender requests from several alien commanders." Green's face hardened. "Remind them what happened to New Haven. Tell them we don't accept surrenders from genocidal murderers." The psychological impact on the Zephyrians was devastating. For 3 centuries, they had been the predators, the unstoppable force that erased entire species. Now they were the prey, facing an enemy that showed them the same mercy they had shown to their victims. Captain Joe Parker led the assault on Kithara, the collective's primary shipyard. His task force of 75,000 vessels surrounded the system, cutting off all escape routes. The shipyards had been building ships for 3 centuries of conquest. Now they would be reduced to cosmic dust. "All ships, commence bombardment," Parker ordered. "Every facility, every ship, every piece of infrastructure. I want nothing left that can build weapons for these monsters." The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the shipyards that had produced the fleets used to commit genocide were nothing but debris. The message was broadcast throughout Zephyrian space. "This is for New Haven." As the human fleet continued its advance, alien communications networks carried reports of complete military collapse. Their fleets were being destroyed, their worlds were being blockaded, and their entire empire was crumbling under the weight of human vengeance. The aliens who had once believed they were the masters of the galaxy now huddled in their cities, waiting for humanity's final judgment. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and now they would face the consequences of their crimes. The human fleet moved inexorably toward Zephyr Prime, darkening the stars with their passage. The human war machine rolled through Zephyrian space like an unstoppable force of nature. Admiral Patricia Green stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the Third Fleet systematically dismantled what remained of the collective's outer defenses. 3 months into Operation Darkfall, humanity had destroyed over 90% of the alien military forces. "Admiral, we're receiving another surrender transmission from the Zephyrian commander at Thalos Station," reported her communications. Officer Green didn't even look up from her tactical display. Standard response: "We don't negotiate with species that commit genocide." The surrender offers had been coming for weeks now. Zephyrian commanders, seeing their fleets destroyed and their worlds blockaded, were desperately trying to save themselves. But humanity remembered New Haven. They remembered the 2.3 million innocent people who had been given no chance to surrender, no opportunity to plead for their lives. Captain Joe Parker led his battle group toward the Kithara system, where the smoldering remains of the collective shipyard still drifted in space. His 75,000 ships had reduced the facility to cosmic dust 3 weeks ago. but intelligence reports suggested the aliens were trying to build new facilities in hidden locations. "Captain, we're detecting energy signatures from the asteroid belt," called his sensor operator. "It looks like construction activity." Parker studied the readings. "Take us in for a closer look. If they're trying to rebuild their war machine, we'll stop them before they start." What they found was a pitiful sight. A few hundred Zephyrian workers were trying to build a small shipyard using salvaged materials. The facility could maybe produce one ship every few months, compared to the massive yards that had once built hundreds of vessels simultaneously. "They're not even worth the ammunition," muttered Parker's first officer. "Destroy it anyway," Parker ordered. "Every bolt, every piece of metal, every tool they might use to build weapons. We're not here to show mercy. We're here to end their ability to harm anyone ever again." The human ships opened fire, turning the pathetic construction effort into debris. Across the system, similar scenes played out as human forces hunted down every trace of Zephyrian military capability. Colonel Grace Williams commanded the ground forces that had landed on Velos Prime, one of the collective's secondary worlds. Her Marines moved through the alien cities, searching for weapons caches and military installations. What they found instead were populations of slave species that the Zephyrians had been using for labor. "Colonel, you need to see this," called Sergeant Martinez from a large building complex. "It's some kind of processing center." Williams entered the facility and immediately understood what she was looking at. The Zephyrians had been systematically breaking down the cultures and identities of conquered species, turning them into mindless workers. Children were separated from parents, languages were forbidden, and any sign of resistance was met with death. "Get medical teams down here immediately," Williams ordered, "and document everything. The galaxy needs to see what these monsters have been doing." The rescued slaves told horrific stories. The Zephyrians didn't just kill other species. They tortured them first, broke their spirits, and forced them to participate in their own destruction. Entire civilizations had been reduced to slavery before being wiped out completely. Admiral Tim Anderson coordinated the blockade of Zephyrian trade routes from his command ship at the edge of their territory. His job was to ensure that no alien vessel could escape to spread their genocidal ideology to other parts of the galaxy. "Admiral, we've intercepted another refugee convoy," reported his tactical officer. 12 ships trying to reach the outer systems." Anderson studied the sensor readings. "Any military vessels?" "Negative, sir. All civilian transports. Probably carrying fleeing politicians and military leaders." Anderson nodded. "Disable their engines and board them. Any Zephyrians involved in military operations or government are to be detained. Let the civilians through, but make sure they understand they can never return." The boarding operation was swift and efficient. Human Marines found several high-ranking collective officials trying to escape disguised as ordinary citizens. These aliens had signed orders for planetary bombardments, had planned genocidal campaigns, had personally overseen the destruction of entire species. "Take them to the detention ships," Anderson ordered. "They'll face trial for their crimes once this war is over." As human forces converged on the inner systems of Zephyrian space, intercepted communications revealed the true depth of alien panic. Their government was collapsing, their military was destroyed, and their entire civilization was falling apart under the weight of human vengeance. Commander Ron Davis now led a battle group of 100,000 ships as they approached the Zephyr system itself. The alien homeworld lay ahead, defended by the last remnants of the collective's military forces. Intelligence suggested they had maybe 5,000 ships left, the survivors of a fleet that had once numbered in the tens of thousands. "All ships, this is the final approach," Davis announced to his fleet. "Remember why we're here? Remember New Haven. Remember every innocent life these creatures have taken. Today, we end their ability to hurt anyone ever again." The Zephyrian defense fleet was positioned around their homeworld in a desperate last stand. Their ships were outdated, their crews were demoralized, and their weapons were no match for human technology. But they fought anyway, driven by the same fanatical beliefs that had led them to commit genocide in the first place. Incoming transmission from the Zephyrian Fleet Commander, reported the communications officer. Davis considered ignoring it, then decided to listen. The alien's voice came through the speakers, speaking in broken human language. Human Commander, we offer complete surrender. We will disarm our forces and submit to your authority. We ask only that you spare our civilians. Davis smiled coldly. You want to spare your civilians? Did you spare the civilians at New Haven? Did you spare the children of the 46 species you've exterminated? Your people showed no mercy when they had the power. You'll receive none from us now that we have it. The transmission ended. Davis turned to his weapons officer. Signal. All ships, commence the final assault. Every military vessel, every orbital platform, every piece of infrastructure that could be used for war, destroy it all. The battle for Zephyr Prime lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the collective's military forces were completely eliminated. Their orbital defenses were debris. Their military industry was ash. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 centuries no longer had the ability to threaten anyone. As the human fleet took position around the Zephyrian homeworld, Admiral Bennett's face appeared on screens throughout the fleet. All forces, this is Admiral Bennett. The Zephyrian Collective's military has been completely destroyed. Their ability to wage war has been eliminated. The galaxy is safe from their genocidal ambitions. The crew of every ship cheered, but their celebration was tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. The final decision about the fate of the Zephyrian species itself still had to be made. They had eliminated the aliens' ability to commit genocide. But the question remained, what should be done with a species whose entire culture was built on the destruction of others? The darkest choice was yet to come. Admiral Charles Bennett stood on the bridge of the Retribution, staring down at Zephyr Prime through the main viewport. The alien homeworld hung before him like a blue and green marble, peaceful and beautiful despite the evil that had been born from its surface. Around him, 900,000 human warships maintained their positions in perfect formation. So many vessels that they blocked out entire sections of the starfield. The final battle had been swift and decisive. The last remnants of the Zephyrian fleet floated as debris around their homeworld, destroyed by weapons they could never have imagined. 3 centuries of genocidal expansion had ended in a matter of hours against an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Admiral, called Captain Julie White from the tactical station, we're receiving multiple surrender transmissions from the planet's surface. Government officials, military commanders, civilian leaders, they're all begging for mercy. Bennett's face remained stone cold. What kind of mercy did they show the children of New Haven? What mercy did they offer the 46 species they exterminated? He turned to face his command crew. Signal all fleet commanders. Prepare for final phase operations. President Kate? Sullivan's image appeared on the communication screen, transmitted from Earth across the vast distances of space. Admiral Bennett, the world is watching? What's the status of Operation Darkfall? Complete success, Madam President. The Zephyrian Collective's military forces have been eliminated. Their ability to wage war has been destroyed. The question now is what we do with their homeworld. Sullivan's expression was grave. Admiral, I've been in contact with the leaders of every human world. The vote was unanimous. These aliens committed genocide against our people and dozens of other species. They chose to be monsters. Now they face the consequences. Bennett nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come, had prepared for it throughout the long campaign. Understood, Madam President. Justice will be served. Captain Paul Martinez stood on the bridge of the dreadnought New Haven's Memory, one of the massive ships positioned directly above the alien capital city. His vessel had been named for the colony that started this war, and its crew were all volunteers who had lost family or friends in the massacre. Captain, called his weapons officer, all systems are ready. Quantum torpedoes armed and targeted. Antimatter reserves at maximum. Plasma arrays charged and locked onto primary targets. Martinez looked down at the city below, where millions of Zephyrians went about their daily lives, probably unaware of the decision that had been made about their fate. For a moment, he wondered if this was right. Then he remembered the glass. Plains of New Haven, the silence where children had once laughed, the 2.3 million innocent people who had been given no chance to defend themselves. "Signal received from Admiral Bennett," announced the communications officer. "All ships prepare for final bombardment." Authorization code confirmed. Throughout the massive fleet, similar scenes played out. Captain Michelle Roberts aboard the Battleship Justice, Commander Rick Stone on the heavy cruiser Vengeance, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Wright commanding the assault ship Retribution. Each ship carried the names of the dead. Each crew member carried the memory of what the aliens had done. Bennett activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Bennett. 2 years ago, the Zephyrian Collective made a choice. They chose to attack innocent civilians. They chose to commit genocide against peaceful colonists. They chose to declare war on humanity itself." His voice carried across the void to nearly 1 million ships, each one a testament to human determination and industrial might. Today, we show them the consequences of that choice. Today, we ensure that no other species will ever suffer what New Haven suffered. Today, justice is served. The alien government made one final desperate attempt at negotiation. "Human Commander," came the transmission from the planet's surface. "We offer complete submission. We will dismantle our military, abandon our territory, accept any terms you demand. Please spare our civilians." Bennett listened to the plea with no expression on his face. "You had your chance to show mercy when you possessed superior force. You chose genocide instead. Now you face an enemy that learned from your example." Captain Martinez received the final authorization signal. "All weapons, final targeting confirmation. Primary target, planetary infrastructure. Secondary targets, population centers. Tertiary targets, any structure capable of supporting advanced civilization." He paused for a moment, thinking of the children who had died at New Haven, the families who had been vaporized without warning, the peaceful farmers who had harmed no one. "For New Haven," he said quietly, "fire." The bombardment began with a brilliance that outshone the system's star. Quantum torpedoes streaked down from orbit, each one carrying enough destructive power to level entire cities. Antimatter beams lanced through the atmosphere, turning anything they touched into pure energy. Plasma bursts heated the air itself. Until it glowed like the surface of a sun, the attack was methodical and complete. Every city, every military base, every spaceport, every facility that could support an advanced civilization was systematically destroyed. The aliens who had perfected the art of planetary bombardment experienced it firsthand as their own world burned beneath the weight of human vengeance. Within 6 hours, it was over. Zephyr Prime, the homeworld of a species that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 centuries, was reduced to the same glass and ash that they had created on dozens of other worlds. The Zephyrian Collective, once the masters of genocide, had been erased from existence. Admiral Bennett stood in silence as the glow of destruction faded from the planet below. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, professional and efficient even in this dark moment. They had done what needed to be done, but none of them took pleasure in it. "Signal all fleet commanders," Bennett ordered. "Mission accomplished. The Zephyrian threat has been eliminated. Prepare to return to human space." As the massive fleet began to disperse, heading back to their home worlds, the rescued slave species transmitted messages of gratitude. 46 civilizations had been wiped out by the Zephyrians, but dozens of others had been saved by humanity's intervention. The galaxy was safe, but the cost had been enormous. Humanity had been forced to become something they had never wanted to be, the arbiters of extinction. They had darkened the stars themselves to ensure that no other species would suffer as New Haven had suffered. Years later, when other species encountered humanity for the first time, they would hear whispered stories of the day 900,000 human warships blotted out the light of distant suns. They would learn of New Haven and of the terrible price paid by those who mistook human compassion for weakness. On Earth, a memorial was built for the 2.3 million victims of New Haven. Their names were carved into black stone, and every year, on the anniversary of their deaths, the entire human fleet would fire a salute that could be seen across multiple star systems. The light of those weapons, bright enough to illuminate the cosmos itself, served as a reminder that humanity would never forget its dead. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Humans were peaceful by choice, not by nature. And when that choice was taken from them, they became something far more dangerous than any alien empire had ever imagined. The stars themselves bore witness to humanity's justice.